in one-day international runs. 17 years ago, Sachin Tendulkar achieved a feat that no man had. Since then, 11 other players from 4 different countries have gone past the 10,000 scale. But it is Virat Kohli who can scale above all of them if he does it in his 204th innings. This is ESPN Cricket for Matchday as we look ahead to the second India-West Indies one-day international at Visakhapatnam. Ajit Agarkar in studio with me. What looks like a pretty dry Visakhapatnam pitch where India won the toss and batted first.
Yeah, I mean India's batted first. That's clear indication that in spite of being good chasers, they want to bat first. And obviously, if there's no dew later on in the evening, it'll only get harder to bat on. So yeah, I think that decision by Virat Kohli tells you what the pitch is.
It seemed like Phil Simmons that the West Indies went too hard when they were batting first. They have the luxury of chasing, if it is a luxury now. We also know that in Visakhapatnam, whoever's won the toss has gone on to win the game. But that's just pointless trivia I'm giving you. Welcome to our pre-match show. Thoughts on the West Indies having to bowl first at Visakhapatnam?
It's going to be one of those days where they know what they have to chase. They might have to bat a little bit different to what they did in the first match, but let's see how they adapt and let's see where people like Hetmyer and them carry on from, because it's not about one inning, it's about how you play consistently. That's what has the great batsmen up where they are. So let's see how West Indies bowl first and restrict India, and then see how we bat.
Okay.
That's exactly it. I mean that could very well work in West Indies' favour, because if they bat the way they did and they have a target, and if the pitch doesn't grip or turn, could be an interesting evening.
Okay, it looks like the Indian team think tank is predicting that it will grip and turn because they played 3 spinners. Kuldeep Yadav comes in, out goes Khalil Ahmed. Could have been a toss-up between which one of the seamers makes way for India's best limited overs bowler in 2018. But the change that they've made is that the left-arm quick Khalil Ahmed is out and in comes Kuldeep Yadav. You've been advocating for Kuldeep Yadav in. Are you happy that he's come in place of Khalil Ahmed?
Yeah, I mean again the conditions are dictated. Maybe the dryness of the surface, a little bit unfortunate for Khalil Ahmed. The more he plays, the better he's going to get. So they've gone for the 2 experienced guys, the 2 seamers. Yeah, I mean you can again see he just needs more insurance in that batting at number 7 with Jadeja. I don't think he's quite confident yet to go in with six batters in spite of the top 3 doing as well as they have for India. Tells you a bit more about what he thinks about his 4, 5, 6 at the moment. I mean, okay, Pant hasn't really played in one-day cricket, so he wants that little bit of insurance with the batting, but also the dry surface. When it's dry and when it spins, Jadeja is a different bowler.
That would hold even if Jadeja is bowling second on this pitch.
Yeah, I mean, again tells you why he is a little bit worried about his batting. I mean, he might talk it up and say, we've done well with the bat. But he is not confident when there is no Hardik Pandya or a Kedar Jadhav to give that a little bit of depth to that batting, because the bowlers, if you see, not any of if there's Ashwin, you could still see he can he can contribute with the bat. If there's a Jadeja at number 8, he can contribute with the bat. None of the bowlers in this lineup really can turn the game with their bat or contribute or hang around with the batsman. So. Yeah, Jadeja is an insurance, but in this case, obviously the pitch is dry, which his bowling then becomes a lot more effective.
Okay, we'll talk a little more about Jadeja and the value he adds with the bat towards the end of the innings. Now that India batting first, different dynamic. But as far as the West Indies go, there is one change, and Phil Simmons did call this on our preview show. There is a debut for the left-arm seamer for the St. Lucia Stars, Obed McCoy, but it's not for who Phil wanted out. Phil wanted Kemar Roach to make way for him because he liked the look of O'Shane Thomas, but it is O'Shane Thomas in spite of his impressive debut, even though if the scorecard doesn't reflect it, Phil, that makes way for Obed McCoy. Thoughts on that change?
Yeah, I think West Indies have gone for the experience of Kemar Roach rather than the youngster. It's something that you could see because McCoy has the change of pace and the deceptive slower balls that is needed on flat wickets, and that's why I think he's been given a chance. A little bit disappointed that Thomas hasn't been given another chance to continue to learn what he's been doing.
Tell me a little more about Obed McCoy. How much have you seen of him? Can he take the new ball, or is he the sort of bowler that you keep for the death? How do you best use Obed McCoy, and what's his USP as a left-arm seamer in limited overs cricket?
I think his biggest thing, he has got pace and he can use the new ball, but I think his change-ups are really good. His Yorkers have been exceptional in the CPL. So I think those are the areas that he will be strongest in. But he has got pace, and to go away from Rohit Sharma, Kohli, Dhoni, that's the main thing that I think that he would bring to this bowling lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that. It was sort of one-dimensional, Ajit, last game. Everyone bringing the ball into the right-handers. No left-arm spinner, no left-arm seamer. You know, you like playing bowlers only if they're good enough, not if they are of a certain type. But what's the harm with left-arm seamer?
Yeah, I mean, we in the preview, we did. On occasions, India has had trouble with good left-arm seamers. I mean, we're talking about really good left-arm seamers, whether it's Amir or someone of that sort of caliber. We'll have to wait and see if it's the same. But change of angle again with a dry surface, a little bit of change of pace could make the difference. And Indians haven't seen a lot of him either. So that surprise is something that sometimes works in your favor. So no harm in trying someone. A little bit unfortunate for Roshane Thomas. Really looked impressive. Looked quick. Maybe not the conditions for him, so they've gone for a bit more experience with Kemar Roach.
Maybe he wouldn't mind not playing Visakhapatnam.
Yeah, it's not the
Pune
biggest
might
ground.
be a nice place.
I don't think there's any ground in India that he'll enjoy playing on, one-day cricket. So it's a hard lesson, but it's something that stands you in good stead going forward in your career.
I hope will be pretty happy. There's no Roshane Thomas in this game for the near fatal blow that he delivered after his wicket of Shikhar Dhawan. Let's move our attention to Virat Kohli, who will of course, we batting first on this Visakhapatnam pitch after electing to bat first. The records that the Indian captain can break today. We know he's 81 short of getting to 10,000 one-day international runs, and he's going to get there sooner than anyone in cricket ever has. We're looking at the most runs among currently active ODI players. Only MS Dhoni just above him. It's amazing how MS Dhoni manages 10,000 runs batting for a large part of his career in the lower middle order. But that's the only man above him. Chris Gayle is in and out for the Windies. Yuvraj Singh is still not announced retirement, so you can consider him as an active international player. Hashim Amla on that list too. But this is, even there, I think from that list, Kohli is just after that generation, you'd say. These guys playing a little more before that, but it's clearly head and shoulders.
Yeah, but the one thing about him is he's also played in an era where the rules were what these guys played in, where there were 5 fielders outside the ring were allowed. There was a period where there was only one new ball or one ball used. No, he's just, one-day cricket for the last 4, 5, 6 years. He's already established himself as a one-day great. Okay, you don't compare eras, but just the sheer consistency and how prolific he's been over his career and continues to be. Just play with the same sort of intensity. Those numbers are just staggering. To get to 10,000 as quickly as he did, doesn't matter what, even if the rules are a little bit more loaded in favor of the batters, the pitches are flatter. He still stands above the rest of the guys that are playing cricket today.
The other thing we saw was 36 hundreds and 48 50s. That conversion rate, just extraordinary. He is a ton machine. Virat Kohli's last 5 ODI innings, we're just looking at how he's been in rich form through 2018, and that's removing the Asia Cup because he took a bit of a rest. Otherwise, for all you know, those 10,000 would have already been got. We're also going to look at some more numbers, Phil, and this might interest you from an India-West Indies standpoint, because he's also on the cusp of becoming the leading run scorer in international cricket against the West Indies for India. Tendulkar just 46 ahead. So Virat Kohli with an average of 63. You've got Dravid, Ganguly, and you even feature Mohammad Azharuddin in that, who would have played a very different set of West Indies bowlers. An average of 26 used to get you in the most runs for India against the West Indies. That isn't the case anymore, Phil. Times have changed, and how?
Yeah, it's a big change from then to now. But you can see his staggering figures there. He's already got 500 and against West Indies, and he continues to show that he's a class above everyone else in this format, and especially when chasing. So to see those figures are not surprising, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more added to it in the time that he has.
And he averages close to 100 at Visakhapatnam as well.
Throw that in too.
I don't think West Indies is looking forward to this.
If there's any consolation, it's that his numbers are extraordinary batting second, and he's not batting second. So there's something for the West Indies to look at. But let me have a serious conversation on Virat Kohli. It's become almost boring for us to talk about his greatness in one-day cricket, Phil. But as a current active international coach, someone who's got the unenviable task of figuring out how to stop Virat Kohli, What do you make of him? How is it that you go into every game saying there's very little we can do to stop this guy, we know how good he is, but still this is what we're going to try and do? What are you going to try and do to stop Virat Kohli?
Well, first of all, I think that when he comes in, the first thing is to try and get him out early. Every batsman is vulnerable early in their innings. Let's say the first 15 balls, every batsman is vulnerable. So we have to try and get him out in those first 15. If not, then we have to look at closing down one side, which is absolutely difficult with him. But you have to look at trying to close down one side and make him try and score on one side. Let him try using scoring on the side that you don't want him to score on, and it gives you a little bit more of a chance. But if you're going to bowl him straight, he's going to nick you off on both sides. He's going to pick balls from off stand over mid wicket and vice versa. So we'll be looking at getting him out early and then trying to make him score, take balls from one side and score on the other side.
Okay, sounds simple enough. Try and get him out early. But let me ask the fast bowler. Virat Kohli comes out, you know the kind of form he's in. What are your first 3 balls to him, or your first 4 balls? You don't want to get him off strike, don't want to give him an easy boundary. Do you ask your captain to work a field plan in a certain way?
Yeah, I mean, look, his obvious sort of, well, not weakness, but one of the areas that you think you have a chance against him is if the ball goes away from him. Doesn't swing for that long.
Yeah,
in
this
one
white
day
ball
cricket.
doesn't go away at all.
Yeah, and and he can still come in and still play you through the leg side if it's not swinging, even if your line's quite wide. Is the conditions. It just makes it harder for the bowlers. Yeah, you want to try and be as consistent and as tight or a little bit outside off stump as you can when he first comes in. Like Phil said, maybe not let him get off to a sort of easy start. It's very hard. It's the kind of sort of spaces that he uses in one day cricket, and then there's only 4 fielders outside the ring even after 10 overs where he's good enough to then maneuver ball wherever he wants, whether it's on the off or the leg. It's very hard. I mean, like Phil said, 15 balls, you target a batsman, doesn't matter who he is. In his case, I think it's even less if the ball's not doing anything. You hope that the ball's, I mean, left arm's sometimes a nice option to have, whether the ball, if you can bring it back in and hope that he misses one, which he rarely does from stumps. Or pitch and go away. We've seen in, I know it's England, but in the Test match that Curran couple of times nicked him off, ball going away. But that's got to be very early in his innings. Unless he makes a mistake after that, it just becomes very hard.
What about the short ball? It seemed like Jason Holder employed that in the bilateral series after the Champions Trophy and got him a few times.
Yeah, it again depends on the conditions. I mean, the short ball's got to be a good short ball. Yeah, you could take a chance once the 10 overs are done and have a couple of fielders out and hope he keeps going for it and still bowl a good one. In India, it just becomes harder and harder. The short ball, I mean, there's not much pace in it. It's not as if he has a problem against the short ball. He still plays it well. Yeah, it's one of those guys. I mean, you see those numbers and you know that most bowlers in the world in one day cricket have struggled to get him out early, and that's why those numbers are where they are today.
Okay, to add to the West Indies' slight nerves ahead of this game with all the runs being spoken of, all the records being spoken of, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli have a few records at Visakhapatnam too, and we'll just have those for you in there for 163, and well, it seems like a nice happy ground for batsmen to hunt on. Now, Rohit Sharma is also someone who doesn't quite like the left arm seam of the ball coming in, Phil. How much can Obed McCoy get the ball to swing? I know anyway swing is an endangered species in one day cricket with this white kookaburra ball, but how much can Obed McCoy do to just try and get the opening batsman out with the ball coming in?
I've not seen much of him swinging the ball in to the right-handers, and I hope that he has that in his armor. But I think that with these batsmen, even if you're pitching in the right areas and going away from Rohit early on, in those same 15 balls I've spoken about, in the first game, one went through second slip or wide second slip. So if you can get it in the right areas going away from him, you still have a chance there too.
Okay, well, keeping the conversation going, and keep your questions and comments coming for us on our Facebook Live. There are plenty for Virat Kohli.
We've put a lot of pressure on Obed McCoy at the moment.
He saw the other guys go all over the park, gets a debut at Visakhapatnam. But anyway, there are better ways to start international cricket. So let's keep an eye on poor Obed McCoy, not being too harsh on him. Let's talk about India's batting. Because again, when they're batting first, we've seen it at times, top 3 very good, get them to a great position at say 35-40 overs, and then that push doesn't come. Do they bat any differently, given that there's a little insecurity in the lower middle order?
We didn't see that happen in the last game. I mean, Rohit probably started a little bit like he does in
But
one-day
when they're
cricket.
batting first, batting second, they sort of know what they need to get.
Yeah, but even so, that's the way Rohit sort of builds his one-day innings. There might be an odd occasion where he sort of outscores Shikhar Dhawan at the start, but he plays himself in and then just explodes. Most of his hundreds have been scored that way, the big hundreds, whether it's the double hundreds or 150s that he gets. I can't see them bat any differently. I mean, that's the thing. That's why I said before, it could work in West Indies' favour that India's batting first if the pitch doesn't really spin as much. Because India will be wary that West Indies got to 322 in spite of losing all those wickets last game. Whether they bat differently, trying to get to a score which is above par and then make some mistakes. It's an interesting one actually, this one. I mean, India is desperately hoping that the pitch deteriorates as the game goes on. But like you said, batting first, if they go too hard at the start, the middle order is not quite done as well as they would like. It's an interesting one. Could play into the West Indies' hands if India do manage to somehow India's top three don't really perform, which has not happened too often these days.
I mean, technically, Phil, they did half the job right. You need 2 out of the top 3 out early. They got 1 out of the top 3 out early last game. But it's not all gloom and doom for the Windies. They get a couple of, anything can happen, a bit of a run out, great bit of fielding. You get 2 of those top 3, get to numbers 4, 5 quickly, and you've got a game on. We've seen a vulnerability with India, haven't we?
Yeah, we've seen it before, and that's what they're going to be playing on. That they can get 1 or 2 this time of the top 3, and then see what 4, 5, and 6 bring to the party. So I think that's their plan this morning. It would have to be their plan to try and get wickets, because that's the only way they're going to stop them from scoring over 300. And if they get the first 2 wickets, then we will see what 4, 5, and 6 are made of in this Indian team.
Okay, well, let's see if Jason Holder's spirits are still good. You need your leader to say the right things ahead of a game where the team is looking to claw back into the series. He is speaking ahead of the Visakhapatnam ODI to the press.
It's good to see a young player, coming in, scoring some runs and, being consistent with it. I can only urge him and hope that he continues in that vein. We've got a long series ahead, 4 more games left, so it's a matter for him to repeat that kind of performance. Regardless of whatever happens, he's just got to do what's best for this team and perform his role for this team. We all seen how the conditions could be here in India, and the kind of scores we may get in limited overs cricket here are quite high. So you've got to be, hitting that 300 barrier, more often than not. And, sometimes a par score could be even 320, 340, maybe 350. And you've got to, bowl ridiculously well to come out and defend it. So I think it's a positive to see that we batted all 50 overs as well. We've been critical in the past of not utilising every single delivery. And so it's really good to see our batters, put it in their hands and, get a good knock. And hopefully we can come and repeat it and keep improving and building on it. Gayle isn't here. We've got a pretty young core group of players. Regardless of what happens after this tour, that is too far and beyond at this present time. I'm just focusing on what we have to do here, and that's to play good cricket here in India with the squad that we have selected. And we've got young Shanapal Hemraj, and obviously Karan Paul at the top of the order. Hopefully these guys can get us off to a really good start.
You can see that every time Jason Holder will come to a press conference, regardless of the situation of the series, questions will only come to him on are they missing Chris Gayle, are they missing Sunil Narayan and the likes. Phil, before we move forward, I just want a word on Jason Holder. What do you make of him as just a man who's leading West Indies cricket at arguably one of its most difficult times, players in and out, problems with the board, all those sorts of things. What do you make of him and the way he handles things?
He has been exceptional since the first time he was given captaincy. A lot of people were crying that why give him the captaincy so young and it would hamper his game. And as it's been spoken about during the Test series, his game just keeps going up. The way he handles the press now is impressive, and he keeps bouncing back in situations where a man of his age, you wouldn't expect him to be so eloquent when he speaks to the press as to in the situations that he's been put in with the team. But he has been exceptional in the way he's handled on and off the field as a captain.
I mean, that's the other thing, right? We speak of him being young, and at a time where you're questioning whether he merits a place on his own performance, his game, like Phil says, has only gotten better.
Yeah, I mean, I keep saying it. He should bat higher up that order if if he can. Although they've got some really good young players through that batting lineup, but yeah, that's the one thing you want to see, and then you sort of start demanding a lot more of your players if you can yourself perform at a high level, which he is not just with the bat but with the ball as well. So.
I mean, but this pressure should ideally tell you your own game could get affected.
Yeah,
young captain,
which tells
all
you
this nonsense going on around
which
him.
obviously tells you what good qualities he has. You know, thrives on that responsibility. Not everyone does because you know, West Indies hasn't been playing well for a while now, but his performances haven't dropped at all. If anything, they've gotten better with every series.
All right, we've already seen Jason Holder feature on leading wicket taker, best bowling averages in 2018. He's had a stellar run of it, and his batting, like Ajit says, has only gotten better. How will he use his bowlers on a pitch which tends to work differently for pace and spin? We're just looking at the numbers for Visakhapatnam, and spin certainly the more potent, an economy of under 5, strike rate of under 40, 27 wickets. It's been a fair bit of pace, but you won't find too many grounds in India that will give you a good average when it comes to pace bowlers. Symbolic of 3 spin attack that India have chosen. Would you like to see a little more from the West Indies then? If they've got good enough spinners.
Yeah, I mean, they've